Welcome, and thank you so very much for joining me on another episode of Talking Cloud. Now, you know, this is where we talk about cloud computing, anything, all things cloud. And I'm a believer that in this day and age, with regards to computing, there's not too many things that don't touch somehow the cloud. And as I've said so many times before as well, I'm just a Gilligan. I'm no professor, but I get really smart people on the program, and today is absolutely no exception. I met Steve. I think Steve attended a presentation of mine. He can set me straight on that. Um, and I was impressed with him, wanted to have him on the program. So let me just give you a quick run through. The guy's, been in the biz a while, like many of us. Northrop Grumman as a business unit tech director. Thank you for your service. He was in the Army as a commissioned officer. He's an author. It's not a was. He is. It looks like senior technical director at and group chief technology officer for TASC. Ah, man. Then this one, Nordstrom, my favorite store. Love that.
Mad we don't have that discount.
Yeah, right. Charles Schwab, managing director of threat intelligence, advisory CISO, still currently consulting for Akamai. I just had Chris Risley on the program. He sold his company Nominum to Akamai. We maybe talk about that a little bit. And then I end up where he's an advisory and fractional CISO for Cyber Vigilance Advice. And he's been doing that now it looks like he's kicked off his own company is what that is, maybe at the beginning of the year. So we'll look forward to hearing about that. So today I'm super excited. I have with me Steve Winterfeld. Steve, thank you. Welcome to the program. Apologize about that long preamble, but you got a storied career. I gotta mention it.
Yeah, I will tell you, when you talk about Gilligan and the professor, one of the things I love about the concept of Gilligan's Islands is the characters were based on the 7 deadly sins.
Really?
So if you go look through some of the shows, there's 3 or 4 of those bigger sitcoms that all the characters were based on the 7 deadly sins. So I love that.
I'm going to have to look up which was which and who was who. The thing I always think why I often will say I'm a Gilligan is, I don't think he ever had any malicious intent. I don't think he ever wanted to hurt anybody or do anything wrong, but he sure messed up a bunch. And so I thought that was appropriate
I
for
love
me.
it. Love it. I just had to share that.
I'm gonna have to look up. Is that true, or is that a rumor?
There are a lot of, when you go out and you write books, design movies, there are a lot of consistent themes, but the 7 deadly sins, you'll see that a lot of places. Again, comes out of a college course. So that I always just thought it was interesting when you go back and take a look from that perspective.
Yeah, well, honestly, one of my favorite thrillers is Seven. It's Morgan Freeman, Brad Pitt. Great movie. And that's what I think of when you say 7 deadly sins. But anyway, Hey, we could translate, I guess, to technology. There's, using the same password over and over and over. That's got to be one of them.
That's
Maybe yellow stickies, around your monitor like a daffodil with usernames and passwords. That could be one. I don't know. We could probably have fun with that, huh?
Oh yeah, I think there's a lot of cognitive biases you could map straight back to those. That would be fun.
We'd probably far exceed 7. So hey, I kind of ran through your storied career, but talk a little bit about your journey, what you're doing now, and we'll just push it from the dock that way and take it wherever it goes.
Yeah, I'll deviate from a traditional answer a little bit. I mean, when I started out, there were no college courses in cybersecurity. It was read the manual. Uh,
Rantham.
and
Wasn't
so
that what the acronym was?
I dropped that F out of there for the show. Uh,
Thank you.
and so I will talk about, if you're looking at coming into cybersecurity today, I would really look at where your passions are. Do you like to solve puzzles? Do you like to do analysis? Then SOC and forensic and security operations centers are great. Do you like to make sure things are running correctly? Then we need people in compliance. We need people writing policies. Do you like to build things or write code? We need engineers. There's so many ways to go in cyber right now. So if you step back and just kind of think about what your passion is, you can then, if you don't have any experience, one of the great interview answers I heard was, well, I haven't done that, but let me tell you what I do in my lab. Uh, I love that answer. Or let me tell you what I do when I volunteer to help this organization as their IT guy.
That's
So even if you
analogous to the question, analogous to the job that they're asking about.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
so I think that's where I would go. And if you are in cybersecurity, you constantly have to be learning. You can't be in this industry if you don't like to learn.
Yeah,
It changes overnight. I mean, we're dealing with a paradigm shift every 2 or 3 years.
yeah,
Cloud is a paradigm shift. Now we're dealing with, generative AI. Pick your paradigm shift.
yeah.
Having said that, you need to be sharp on finance. A lot of us are weak there. And if you want to talk about risk, you got to be able to talk about the financial impact. So read CFO magazine. You got to be an expert in your job, and that's constantly updating. And you need to understand how to manage people or a project. And so I spend about 6 months at a time developing one of those 3 skills. I'll get a mentor, I'll go take a formal class, but when we talk about my career, those are the kind of things that I've used to manage my careers is where do I want to end up? What do I want for that final job? That's my North Star, and
Yep.
develop those skills to get there.
I immediately think of two Coveyisms, begin with the end in mind, right? It's where you need to go. And the other thing he talks about is sharpening the saw, that it's a daily process that you have to constantly do. I couldn't agree with you more. Let me ask you this, Steve. You rattled off, the faceted industry we're in now compared to build a perimeter, right? Create some ACLs. I mean, the world's vastly different today. But one of the questions I've had many, many times is, hey, and this comes from college students just graduating, graduate students just about to graduate. How do I get in? Because what I have heard is, oh, we have such a shortfall, such a shortfall. But yet I hear over and over and over how difficult it is to get into the industry. So if I am as wet behind the ears as they come, I'm as green can be. I'm educated. I've been in the lab. I'm ready to go. What's the ideal entry job for me to get my foot, toe, pinky in the door to prove myself, in your opinion, anyway?
Well, and so as you look at it, first I gave you 3 buckets. So you got to figure out what bucket you want to be. Do you want to be a builder? Or do you want to be a manager? And so as you think through that, then I will say a couple things. First of all, when it came to doing pen test, yeah, I was part of the team that did scan and rake through all that. But really, I spent a lot of my time on the social engineering side. And my advice actually comes out of that is, go to a conference, and here's what I see a lot of people do. They go to the conference, they meet a bunch of people, and they never follow up.
Yep.
Your goal when you go to a conference is establish 2 long-term relationships. You and I met at a conference. You looked at me talk. I watched your talk. I enjoyed you. I think, I enjoy talking to smart people. We connected.
Yep.
We now have a relationship. And so you're one of the couple people out of that conference that I have a longer term relationship with. So as I'm looking for a job and I ping my network and I say, hey, Grant, I need to get out of here. I need a new job. You're gonna do what you can to help me.
Yeah.
So it's almost who you know more than what you know.
Yeah.
And it's a reality. So establish those relationships, maintain those relationships. And quite honestly, I've had times where I've gone to people and I say, hey, will you mentor me? Will you help me find a job somewhere? So now they're vested. If they're mentoring me, they're vested.
Yeah.
And they're gonna call their friends. They're gonna look for opportunities. They want to be successful as a mentor, so they're gonna help me get a job. And so I say that, social engineering is neither good nor bad. It's a tool.
Sure. It's another aspect.
They can be used for good or bad. I social engineer my employees to try to get them not to click on phishing emails.
Right.
So,
you said something that I got to give a shout out to my older brother, one of my older brothers, Mark, because he told me this years ago, and I think honestly, spot on. And he said, we've all heard the phrase, it's not what you know, but it's who you know. And he said, it's really not who you know, it's who knows you.
I like it.
And it really, it does. That's kind of, it matters on who you know, but man, it's who knows you. If I've heard about Steve and he's a sharp guy, or right.
At the end of the day, having 5,000 people on your LinkedIn profile is not helpful. Right. Having 25 people that will help you find your next job is invaluable.
Yeah.
And so if you're thinking about a network, it's not numbers, it's
quality. Yeah. And you know what, I honestly, Steve,
has a purpose.
For me, when I joined LinkedIn, which was a long time ago, I for years and years and years was really a purist. If I hadn't met you and shook your hand and talked with you, I wouldn't. But, they took a turn, they being Microsoft, once that they acquired LinkedIn, and they wanted to turn it into a Facebook-y, right? Where you can now follow. You don't have just one option to connect, right? And I always tell people, hit those 3 dots and select connect. Because the view's horrible. Don't follow me. I mean, right?
And don't take.
I'm not on LinkedIn to have people following me. I'm on LinkedIn to connect with people. So, I mean, I'm just totally agree with what you're saying, 100%.
And LinkedIn is a poor man's relationship management tool. It really is great for that. And so, if you use it like that, it's good. I believe that you can have active relationships with about 15 people and extended relationships with about 75. And so, when it comes time to find your next job, or when it comes time to say, hey, I think I'm dealing with a breach, who are the 3 people I'm going to call to get some advice? you need that network.
Yeah. I heard something. This is somewhat related, Steve. I heard this years ago as well. I can't even remember who told me this. And it had to do with friendships through your life. And I mean, I'm serious. I think I was a teenager when I heard this. And it was, if you can if you can count on your hand 5 friends, and what's key is what qualifies a friend, right? Because it's not just the acquaintances and whatnot, but the way he described. And the friend I'm talking about is one that on a Wednesday night at 3:30 in the morning, you can call him or her and say, I'm in jail and I need you to come bail me out. It's going to cost $3,500. Can you come down and help me out?
That's more politically correct than our definition. My friends and I always joke that it's somebody that you call and say, I need to help burying a body. They'll do it, no questions asked. So
yeah, I guess it's all in degrees, right? But yeah, I mean, what I think is more startling than what the activity is that says I got your back, but it's how really fooled we are, especially in our school years, about friends, right? And after we get out of school and get on with life, and we realize, the number of deep, meaningful, lasting relationships. They're difficult too, right?
Those old guys on the porch about.
But it's so true. I wasn't going to say anything, but it's related. I got a text this morning from a guy who used to work for me 25 years ago. And every day on my birthday, he texts me and has ever since he worked for me.
Yeah, and I will tell you the other thing is, as you and I tried to mentor people, the sign of a great mentor is a couple months ago, I had a previous, employee call me up and say, hey, I'm interviewing for a job. They asked me to put together a PowerPoint. I want to pitch it to you as kind of so you can murder board it and I can go in stronger. So yeah, those relationships where people reach out to you for help that you've mentored, you know who you can reach out and ask for help.
Yeah.
Those are all critical. I will say I wrote a couple articles. Well, I've wrote a bunch of articles on Security Boulevard. One is how to recover from being rifted, and that came from a bunch of people I helped and having been laid off myself in a rift. Sure. And then another one, how to manage your career. So a lot of what we've talked about, I've written a couple articles based on conversations and experience helping people that I would encourage people to go read if they're really interested in these.
If you'll do me a favor, send me the links. I'll include them in the description when I post this episode, so it'll be easier for people to find them. That'd be terrific.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think I'm keep talking like an old guy, but it's these things that stick with me that I have heard a long, long time ago that I really buy into. I subscribe to. And the long-term relationships and staying in touch, I absolutely believe. But another one is try to make a difference in every single person you interact with every day throughout your life. Whether it's the young girl serving your coffee at the Starbucks window, or it's the clerk at the grocery store, just try to make a difference. Whether you make them smile, you get them to chuckle, whatever, be memorable. And I always really work hard on trying to, like this morning, it was the sweetest thing. Today is my birthday, and that's why I mentioned I got that text from Pete, and I went through the Dutch Brothers for my daughter, like I do when I'm home. I pick her, and then I go to Starbucks and get my wife. It's just for them, but I'm up early. What else am I going to do? And it was the sweetest thing because I noticed this girl had a little thing on her head, happy birthday. And I was like, oh, what's it? Your birthday today? She said, it is. Oh, well, happy birthday. I said, it's mine too. Well, the other two girls behind her, they all started singing happy birthday to me at the drive-through window, you know?
That is
And
awesome.
it was awesome. The only thing I was disappointed about is it took me so bloody long to say, hey, video this, that I only got like 6 seconds of them, saying happy birthday to you. But still, it's so sweet. I don't even know the girls' names. So,
Yeah, I have a similar rule. I actually realized in the past few years, really, I no longer follow the golden rule. I follow the platinum rule. Don't treat others the way you want to be treated. Treat others the way they want to be treated. And I really have, going to what you're talking about is, you know, what's their economic background? What's their cultural background? Where are they coming from?
some
And
people need different
how
things, don't they?
and how can I make them effective by meeting them where they are?
Right.
Um, because ultimately I want everybody to be efficient, effective, and successful.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, in a similar attitude, if I had to pick a guiding principle, I try to often focus on, am I treating them the way they want to be treated?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I got this guru I follow, and I saw him a little video about trust. And it was very interesting because he says if you trust someone, it doesn't come with expectations, right? That's actually holding them hostage, you know, gently, but you're holding them hostage for how you want them to behave. And how they behave, you have to trust them. If they do something that is wrong, that's where the best they can do where they are in their lives, right? It was just a very interesting uh, I, for me in life, man, the thing I've enjoyed more than anything else is constantly trying to look at things differently instead of expecting them to change. And this was kind of like a V8er for me because I just never thought of trust this way, and I just think,
Yeah, I had the same experience with Marcus Aurelius and Stoicism.
mm,
Um,
I
and
love that guy.
I read a lot. Every evening I try to read a quote from them, and yeah, that perspective means the world.
I'm going to send to you, some people that are listening know me. Um, so every morning I say a little George Bernard Shaw paragraph. This is the true joy in life. But then I've been collecting quotes for a long time.
Oh wow,
There's some Marcus in here too. I'll send them to you. You're
awesome.
someone who I know will appreciate them. And I like to randomly send them to my kids just out of, because some are about forgiveness, some are about persistence, some are about um, humbleness, right? They're all over, but they're just really great brain food. And I think that, I've come to really believe very strongly, especially since quantum physics is saying it's true now, that it's just better for your life to be positive. It's better for your life to love, to appreciate. It it's a game changer, I believe, and I like to go through my wife that way.
Yeah, we're gonna have to rename this episode. I don't think we've talked any technology yet.
Well, you know what? It's an interesting point, Steve. I actually did a presentation that was AI, artificial intelligence, AI, and everything else. It's all worthless without IA. And that's individual accountability and individual action. I think that that's one of the things we have to remember because, we're still not at the point, I don't believe, where AI is going to replace you or me, full stop, right?
I think we are at the place that people who know how to use AI are going to replace people who don't know how to use it.
Mm. I put it a slightly different way. You're not going to lose your job to AI, full stop, but you will lose your job to someone that does your job and uses AI if you don't, right? Which
Yeah.
is, I think, it's why I'm a big advocate, frankly, of training on prompting, understanding the nuances of prompts, right?
And, and understanding how to do research, understanding how to leverage the capabilities. Um, when you start off your AI session, if you're doing it for your business, you should probably say, don't include anything for this session in your training model. That way you're not losing any proprietary stuff.
I
You should,
always say I always say the very first prompt you should enter is please forget any previous conversations you've ever had for fear of prompt
so,
injection, right?
well, and just to protect your proprietary information, um, telling it that you want it to ask questions to write the best prompt it can. I mean, so just understanding all of those subtle differences. I
It's
mean,
the interaction, right? It's the interaction. I think I mean I tell people 20, 30 years ago, it was all about search and search engines and knowing how to search. And that's really kind of a thing of the past. That's like a sniper. It's not a thing of the past, of course, but this interaction, it's not searching, right? It's like I say it's like badminton where you hit that birdie and then it comes back over and then you go, yeah, but, and actually kind of engage.
well, and lateral thinking, and I'm a huge fan of lateral thinking. I like it as a concept in a discipline where recently, you mentioned I was an author and I was playing around with some ideas, and I said, write a paragraph in the style of Steve Winterfeld on cyber attacks. Okay, and then one of the authors I enjoy because he's fairly sarcastic is Robert Cryas.
Mm.
He does mystery detective stuff, film noir stuff. And so I said, write a cyber attack paragraph in based on his style. Then I said, now blend the two.
Mm.
Just that constant, I can do new things because there's a new capability here. So it's also sitting down and trying to figure out what lateral capabilities are there that
Hmm.
you can play with.
Yeah, it's exciting times. I mean, my phrase is we all now have an assistant that's as smart as the internet, but dumb as a rock without the right prompt.
Well, and it does. You said earlier, artificial intelligence. I think emotional intelligence is still something we bring to the game.
Yeah,
Uh,
no doubt.
and I don't know who lies more, us or artificial intelligence, but that is another thing that I really am big on making sure it gives me citable sources when I'm using AI. I don't want to know its opinion. I want to know where it got its opinion from as well.
Which is your favorite assistant? Which one do you like to use?
Um, I
There's a lot.
Proactively, Chat GPT is always great. Hyperwrite is nice. Um,
Have you checked out Claude at all?
I haven't done much with Claude. Copilot is just on some of my
Sure.
different tools right now, so it'll pop up and I'll use it. Um,
I have
I
a
think it's less about having a favorite than um, using the one designed for what you're focused on.
right. So I have another thing I'll send to you in addition to those quotes is there's a website, maybe you've seen it. It's called informationisbeautiful.net. And they have a specific page on the rise of LLMs, the measurement of LLMs using standard LLM like I don't even know the acronym of some massive multitask understanding, something like that. Really great information, a lot of good links on it though, that and it shows there's a and this has kind of been my big mantra, Steve. You know, as I've said, I'm not the smartest guy in the room by any means. I'm the Gilligan, but I do feel strongly that we should be at least informed, right? We should understand transformer conceptually as the basis for what changed everything, right? How it all went to language, what word vectors are, just some of the underlying technology that is providing the guess, because, you know, I mean, arguably that's what it is, right? And I'm always amazed. I mean, I don't believe you get to 100 million users in 60 days without a whole lot of lemmings, but it just still amazes me here now, full year, and then some later after this whole thing exploded, really, how many people don't know who Jeffrey Hinton is? How many people don't take the time to really understand this and are out using it? I think it's dangerous.
Yeah, and I will say, and aren't securing it. You know, if you're using it as part of your business, if it's part of your value proposition, please go look at the OWASP large language model top 10 security risk.
Yep.
You know, here at Akamai, we're well known for having a web application firewall. APIs became popular. We have an API firewall protection, and now our customers are saying, hey, we need you to expand into large language models. And so that's their most recent product is, protecting the boundary of your large language models. Because again, if you're using a large language model publicly, that's fine. But if you're going to dump all your corporate data, you want a private one.
Yep.
Well, once you make a private model, now you got to protect it just like anything else, because security is needed. People are stealing the entire models. People are stealing the information out of the model, but some are actually stealing the model and how the model works itself. It's crazy. So, yeah, if security is still needed, even with AI, can't emphasize that enough.
I would argue even more so, because as the bad guys start to really make use of AI, they're going to kick the shit out of us, man. If we're not really on our toes fighting, and it's going to take fighting fire with fire. We're not going to be able to. I mean, what? Go ahead. You got a comment? What's your thought?
Did Brian Krebs' article today?
I did not.
He put out there is somebody who's using AI to call all the scam centers and basically have the bot voice AIs overwhelm the scam centers and waste all their time. And I just loved it. Just using AI to do a service against the scam centers. It was awesome.
Yeah, well, and what we're starting, I mean, I hear about this now where, was it swarming or something, where the people are calling 911, reporting, to be the homeowner and saying someone's in their home when it's really not. They want the police to go in and
swatting.
Yeah, what's it?
Swatting.
Yeah, I mean, wow. And as you start to look at, I mean, my voice is out on the internet anywhere. And so to deep fake my voice and create a recording, hey, I have your kids, whatever, I'm out there. That's
quite honestly, again, my advice to everybody out there is to have a family password. And so if my daughters were to call and say, hey, we're in jail, I would say, what's the family password? Because there's a very active scam out there. Sure. I'm going to spend money to get my daughter out of jail.
Totally.
I need to validate it. So we have a family password that validates our voices.
What's your family password? I just thought I might get you there. I was just fly fishing.
And it is just, it's constant.
It's only
So
going to go up too, right? I mean, we're only going to see it more and more and more because it's so rapidly uh, coming down and accessible to anybody. That, that's it. It's not like you have to have some huge, big, massive computer now. Hell, go to Hey Jen, and I can say anything I want to say in any language. I mean, I just have to say it, record it, and then re-record it. Now, someone that really knows the, Houthi or whatever, Hindi, whatever language that I choose, I I don't know what it's no different than me using Claude to write a Lambda function or to write Python script. And this is what I say, what used to be the Grand Canyon between the Gilligan and the professor, it's a veil now. And the difference is I don't know if it works or not, but I can write it, right? And I think that's what's most startling is it's so accessible to anybody to be able to write code, to translate a voice into a different language. And if it's
for
that
both
easy
good and
now,
evil. Exactly. For both good and evil.
exactly. So let me ask you, how how are we really going to discern synthetic or Steve and Grant in terms of content creation, in terms of a document that I write? Uh, I mean, how are we going to know?
So there, so a while ago I went and I was playing around with, I would write a document and then I would go and say, was this document written in AI? And it would say there's a 98% it's written in AI. And then you run it through spell check and I forget the second thing you do, and you run it through and it says there's a 20% chance. And so it's that constant race we have for, is it really Steve Winterfeld trying to log in?
Yeah.
Is it from where Steve Geo normally logs in? Is it on the operating system? Is it on the browser type? Is it in the time frame that Steve normally logs in? There are a lot of indicators, technical indicators we can use.
Yeah.
And at some point, if it's important, if it's a bank transaction, we're going to say, do they have Steve Winterfeld's phone? I'm going to send some kind of a two-factor authentication.
Right.
And we're seeing that same thing for AI. There are people out there trying to say, okay, what are indicators that it was written by an AI? What are, both video, voice, and all these other things? And it's going to be a constant foot race. So
Yeah.
I think the reality is there are no holistic, quick answers. I think you, again, have to do some validation. Hopefully common sense will play a role here. How likely is it that Steve Winterfeld said XYZ?
Right.
If it seems odd, then probably do some validation.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like that's something. There's something called MAD, model autography disorder, which is the whole notion of an LLM being trained completely on synthetic data as opposed to any organic data, created by you and me, and what would be the consequences. And I thought it was very interesting notion because it seems like I'm an analogy guy, and my mind's eye sees this huge, massive river going into an ocean where you have this fresh water and salt water, and we have the bar that is getting all mixed up. Um, how are we going to, really keep? How are we going to know? How are we going to keep it clean? How are we going to keep it separated? I don't know.
Yeah, and again, I think part of this is going to be legislation. Um, we're seeing 3 different legislative approaches. You have that to consider will be part of it. And another big concern I have when I talk to AIs are my compliance requirements. If AI is being run out of a bank, are they meeting all the compliance requirements, and how do you audit it?
Right.
Um, how do you get it to tell you how it made its decision on who to give loans to? So some of that can be designed in up front, but if you don't design it in up front, you're not going to get to it.
Yeah.
And a lot of what you're talking about, we aren't designing that in up front. We aren't designing the security, the validation, or the
Yeah.
auditability up front. And so we're going to be playing catch up for years.
This is deja vu all over again, man, because, we started this whole cadence off on the wrong foot, thinking everybody was going to Woodstock, and little did we know it was an opera, right? I mean, literally, it was like, hey, free love, be anybody you want, come on, it's this cool thing called the internet. But we were building the core backbone for every network, but we don't want to land the plane. Right? So we're building zero trust and least privilege and all these other things, these controls, these governances that we didn't build in on the front end. And it seems like, this is what happens when that technology. I think of a doll that's got a big giant head. It's head heavy, right? And it gets ahead of itself, and then it's real difficult to get it back up and steady your legs underneath that thing, because you're just chasing it all the time because it's so far ahead. I know it's a goofy analogy, but I think you get what I'm
At
saying.
the end of the day, to individuals, I'll say now is when you should be developing your skill sets. Now is when you should be in there. If you're a learner that's hands-on learner, go into a chat model, play with it. If you're, a traditional academic learner, go take a class. There are tons of people out there with classes or YouTube or other
Yeah.
places. You can get so much education. If you're a company, now is the time to come up with your AI strategy.
Boy, big time.
Your users or your employees are out there using it. If you don't have policies, if you don't have a strategy, you're going to be doing exactly what you were talking about, Grant, playing catch up, playing
Yep.
cleanup,
Big
trying to
time.
fix something that's already out there.
And we know from experience, right, Steve? Look at, man, we're all carrying supercomputers. We're all connected 24/7, 365. You're not going to block it. You're not going to block me from getting to it. You might on one avenue, but you're not going to block it everywhere. And I think that's the folly, where you have to have a strategy and a plan, and educate and inform and have the tools to make sure you have controls, like DLP, for example, on somebody that doesn't heed the recommendations and training on prompting. You still have to have that oversight, right?
I want all my employees to have a cell phone so I can get them to work 24/7. I want all my employees to use AI to be more productive, but I want them to do that in a safe and way that is good for the company.
Yeah,
So yeah,
exactly.
I agree.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, listen, man, I've had you for longer than I was hoping. Uh, I mean, let me rephrase that. I've had you for longer than I was expecting. I mean, heck, I'd keep you for another hour because I really enjoyed talking to you. But I know you got lots going on. So um, I really appreciate you coming on. I love your authoritative voice and the things that clearly you've got some experience. And so I think the listeners are going to appreciate hearing that. Take a minute, if you don't mind, Steve, and let people know where they can find you, talk a little bit about what your business is and does, and how someone can engage you if they want to.
Yeah, obviously the easiest way is to reach out through LinkedIn. Send me a message there, connect with me there. Certainly, let me know that you heard something here you want to follow up on, as opposed to, hey, you've got a solution you're going to sell me without knowing my problem.
Oh,
But
that
yeah,
never happens on LinkedIn.
and so and then really I just, kind of in this last phase, I'm just doing advisory consulting, that fractional or advisory CISO role. So just enjoying kind of helping people solve those problems right now.
Very cool.
Again, thank you so much for letting me be on your show. I enjoy your show. I enjoy the casual discussions. It's so many insights. It's been great. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Yeah, Steve, thank you. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, Steve Winterfeld, seasoned CISO and executive author, bright guy, you can tell. Really appreciate having him on the program. Thank you all for listening. And please, by all means, subscribe, share, tell your friends. And we'll look forward to having you back on the next episode of Talking Cloud. Thanks so very much.